Hello, my name is Craig Rainey, and I've been in the construction industry for more than 40 years. When homeowners tell me the story of their project, oftentimes it sounds like this. It doesn't have to be that way.
Oh, wise guy, eh?
And most builders would say that. Welcome to Remodeling Wisdom. I'm Craig Rainey. Let's get started. Well, hello, good people. I appreciate you taking a moment to check out this episode of Remodeling Advice from the Expert, or whatever I call it. Man, this is kind of a supplement. I just got back from wandering around my job sites and checking things out, and things I do it every day, every week, just regular part of doing the work. But the reason I'm recording this episode is because I had something really interesting happen over the past couple days, and I wanted to share it with you. I think this will be a benefit to you. This is the difference between a builder that knows what he's doing and watching out for his client's best interest, and somebody that doesn't. But before I get to that, let me remind y'all that I'd like for you to either subscribe or to hit the like button. It just depends on what platform. We're everywhere. So you just hit that button. It's fun. It's easy. I do it all the time. I'll give you a moment if you need it. Go ahead. There you go. Okay. If you need to get hold of me, the best way to do that is just contact me on my email address, which is craig@craigrainey.com. If you'd like to cyberstalk me, my website is craigrainey.com. For those of you who are more interested in the written word as opposed to the spoken word, I do have an online magazine for remodeling. It's called Texas Builder. Well, it's not called that. It's called Remodeling Advice from the Expert, but it's at texasbuilderblog.com or craigsbuilderblog.com. You can find them either way. You don't want to get you there. Anyway, to the point. I'm not sure what that squeak was, but let's move on. The story that I'm going to tell you is something that happens all the time, but it's rare that I get this blatant and this. I don't know. It's a very generous story that that's rolled out. It will expound upon what I talk about all the time. And just in review, one of the things that we talk about is cardinal rule number one is you never let your subcontractors manage your project, ever. As I mentioned, there are a lot of different types of builders. You've got, they typically come from three places, and let me put it differently. You have three types of remodeling contractors. The builders or the subcontractors. Let's stick with our vernacular. But those general contractors, those remodeling contractors come from one of three places. Either they are somebody who is, they have an affinity for sales, and they see that there's a great amount of money to the billions of dollars a year in this industry, not necessarily for them, but as a whole. So they decide, I'm going to get into this. And so they decide to sell jobs, and they get a bunch of trades together and so forth, put their shingle on the wall and go. The next one is the tradesperson, the technician. Technician, somebody that's either a framer or a plumber, electrician, painter, doesn't make any difference, and they decide they're going to become a general contractor instead of working for general contractors. And finally, the last one is typically the husband and wife but the homeowner who has had work done, and they thought, man, if this joker can do it, anybody can do it. So they go into the business because they feel like that because they've gone through the process and they've seen it. It seems pretty straightforward, and as long as you have good trades, you should be able to do it. I mean, electrician. We'll put electrical in, plumbing, or put plumbing in, and HVAC, put AC in there. You need some painters and hire some carpenters, so forth, and it's pretty easy. And by the way, all of these folks do it that way. But as I've mentioned before, none of these single individual sources is going to provide you with a qualified and competent general contractor remodeler. And the reason for it is because if you review the episode on what makes a general contractor, you're going to find that there is a lot more that goes into being a general contractor than just hiring a bunch of dudes and gals and paying them and putting them on the job and then making sure materials are out there and they pick up paycheck. There's a whole lot more to it than that. The experience that's required and the skill set that's required to be a general contractor is it's pretty formidable. And I've been doing this for 43 years, and I'm running jobs now. In fact, I'm wearing my work boots, jeans, and I was on the jobs today. So, I mean, this is something I'm very familiar with and I'm in touch with. This isn't something I'm guessing at or possibly, I used to, and I hear things. This is actually boots on the ground. So let me tell you the story real quick. So I've got a client that we're doing a room addition for. And this room addition, we're framed up, we're dried in, the exterior's painted, windows are in, exterior doors are in. We're ready for our plumbing, electrical, and HVAC inspection. Well, I alluded to this, but in a previous episode, but let me give you the full story on it. This particular room addition, the owner bought the house a couple years ago, and when he bought this house, there were 2 open permits. We found this out when we pulled the permits for this particular build, and these open permits were from the previous owner, and they I think they did the work, but they never closed those permits. And I talked about it. There was that one, and there's a roof permit was pulled. So anyway, so we had to, even though we're running ducts in from the main air conditioning system into the room addition, that's not an inspectable event with the city of Austin. So I talked to the city inspector, because one of the things they told us is they said, look, we can't inspect this until we have the HVAC permit pulled. And what I talked to anyway, it turns out that's when I learned about the open permit. So anyway, my air conditioning contractor was not available. So the owner and I, we got an air conditioning contractor, just basically out of the phone book. If you use it, it was more complex than that. I vetted this this individual and I checked him out. But anyway, he's a good, primarily a retail HVAC contractor. So in other words, this is the guy with the logos on the van that you would call as a homeowner to have them come out and give you a checkup on your unit, or to maybe install a new unit, whatever it may be. But this is a retail. He doesn't work with builders very often. And as I've mentioned before, my metric and process for vetting trades is far different than the homeowner is. In fact, price is way down the list on this, because I look for the technical part of it, and I look for the skill set, and to make sure that this vendor isn't going to let me down when he's doing my project. I want to make sure he shows up, he knows what he's doing, he's really good at what he does, and he's running a business. Those are the things I look for. So anyway, I turned, and the permitting part of this part where he's having to come in and do an inspection on the house and to take over this permit, that's between he and the homeowner. That has very little to do with me. So in the process of this thing, it turns out that the other HVAC contractor had put in a new air conditioning unit, this kind of thing, and he'd done some things anyway, but hadn't closed the permit. So this new trade of ours went in there. He did a survey and found, well, there's no real problems. He said, but the thing that I have found that we're not going to be able to do is, I don't think that this air conditioning system, this new air conditioning system, is going to be able to provide enough air for that room addition over there. And so here's where the story starts. And so anyway, he's telling the owner this. He's not telling me this. I'm the general contractor, and I'm the guy that made the phone call, put him out there. But he's talking to the owner about this because he is a retail contractor. He's not used to dealing with a general contractor. So I hear the owner calls me up, and he says, well, Craig, we're not going to be able to use our air conditioning system. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put a new air conditioning system outside, 1.5 units, something like that. And he's quoting me at about $6,500 for that, to get that done. And I go, okay. And I said, well, why am I not having that conversation with the HVAC contractor instead of you? He says, I don't know. You just talked to me, and I just letting you know that, so we're facing $6,500. I said, well, it's going to be more than that. It's going to be $6,500, but they're also going to have to pull a manual J on this thing. We're going to have to pull a full permit on the air conditioning system, and we have some inspections going. They're going to do air leak tests. There's a lot of things that are going to go with this. Not to mention we have to change our electrical, because we're going to have to add a 220 for the condenser unit. Plus, we're going to need power for the air handler inside. We're going to have to build an AC closet. We've got some extra sheetrock and framing work we're going to have to do. That's going to drive some cost up. And then, of course, we're going to have to run that drain, which will be inspected also. So the plumber's going to have to do that. So I said, we're well over $6,500 on this thing, do it that way. And I said, let me do this. Let me talk to this contractor. I'll get back to you. Anyway, so I got on the phone with the contractor, and he, of course, told me doggedly, said, there's no way. This is the way we have to do it. And, this is it. And so I ran through the cost. He says, well, that's accurate. Yeah, he's going to do that. He says, it's probably going to be serving the neighborhood more like $8,000 or $8,500 when it's done. I said, well, it's more like about 10, actually, when I get right down to it. He goes, okay. And anyway, so I said, well, let me ask you this. You're saying that this air conditioner, this new air conditioning system that's in there, it's not strong enough. It's not powerful enough to service this room addition. He goes, no, it's not. I said, well, how many tons is the AC unit? Silence. He goes, I don't know. And I go, you don't know? And he said, no. And I said, well, how many square feet is the house? He goes, oh, I don't know, what, 2,500 square feet, 2,000 square feet? I said, you don't know? There's a set of blueprints on the job. And he goes, well, I don't know. And I said, okay, well, this is what I want you to do. And he says, we start talking about costs. And I told him this. I said, look, Mr. Contractor, we're funded. Okay, we've got a budget on this thing. I don't want to talk to you about money. I want to talk to you about the technical end of this. Just talk to me, walk me through the technical part of this, because that's what I want to talk to you about. Don't concern yourself. He's even talking to me about how much sheetrock repair is going to cost. And he's talking about ripping all these vents down and all this other kind of stuff and doing all kinds of stuff in the house. Anyway, so, and I didn't know this, but the owner, he had me on speakerphone, and the owner was sitting there listening to this whole conversation. So I told him, I said, so you don't know what the square footage of the house is. You don't know what the tonnage of the AC unit is, but you're telling me that it's not adequate to do this job. And I'll give you all the numbers on it. And I said, I happen to know that is a 3.5 ton, 16 SEER carrier scroller unit. I happen to know that. And it was put in fairly recently. We've looked at it. I know what the tonnage is. And the main house is 1,100 square feet, and we're adding another 400. So that's a total of 16 or 15 to 16. It's a little over that. That's a total of, we're under 1,600 square feet that's going into this. And you're telling me that this 3.5 ton unit will not service 16 feet or 1,600 feet? He gave me silence. And he goes, well, I just don't think that it's going to work, and then everything else. And plus, we have problems with the plenum and this and that and everything. I said, okay, well, I figure we can reconfigure the plenum so we can run these extra ducts. Well, we really can't without tearing this up and that up. I said, okay, this is what I want you to do. What if we zone it? And for those of you, I'm not going to go into great detail what zoning it is, but you'll get an idea when we talk about it. He goes, well, I'm not sure that we can do that, because we'll have a secondary thermostat somewhere, and then, one may be cold and one may be hot. And by the way, we're in Texas, so we're more concerned about air conditioning here than we are about heat. And so I told the AC guy, I said, okay, look, the main house has 12 to 14 foot vaulted ceilings in it. And that's where the primary thermostat is, right? He goes, yeah, it's in the living room, kitchen area. He says, yeah. And I said, so that room is always going to be warmer than our bedroom area that has 8-foot ceilings and insulated windows, and it's a more compact area. He goes, well, yeah. And I said, well, being that we're in Texas and our main concern is cool, don't you agree that the main house will get colder more? In other words, the bedroom will get cooler more quickly than the main house. He goes, well, yeah. And I said, so being that thermostat on a zone will shut off air when it gets to a certain temperature, don't you agree that it will always shut off before the main house does, so that house isn't going to get hot because it shuts down because the bedroom's area is shut down? And he goes, and this may be a little complex, but just trust me, it works. He goes, well, yeah, that's true. And I said, and so for you to run those ducts, which we've already got a budget on that because they're already run and so forth, so we're good. So doing a zone is going to cost us under $1,500, isn't it? Well, yeah. So in other words, and I don't have to do all this extra sheetrock, and we don't have to build AC closets or any of this other kind of stuff. So in other words, for $1,500, we can zone this unit. And so it saves us, what, $8,500 based on what we're talking about right now? Well, yeah. Well, don't you think we should do that? And he said, well, I wouldn't do it at my house. Okay. Anyway, so we haven't come to. I said, well, I'll talk to the owner too. We think because I didn't know he was on the phone. Anyway, so a little time passed, and obviously after I hung up, this AC guy started talking to the homeowner, and what he told him based on this. Anyway, so what he told him was this. He said, I'm not going to do it that way. I realize this guy, I don't know who this general contractor is, but he knows what he's talking about, and I'm not going to do it that way, and I'm off the job. And anyway, so I was. A couple hours later, I get a phone call because I called the AC guy. He hadn't called me back yet. And get a phone call from the owner, and he's in a huff. He says, look, we're going to do this. We're going to put that AC unit in there because I don't think that zoning system is going. It's not going to zone. It's not going to do this right. I said, is that right? And I said, so why do you think that? He goes, well, I was talking to the AC guy, and he says this, and the fact is he's a pro, and he does this for a living. And he's saying that it won't work. And I said, okay, well, what do you think? He goes, well, I agree with him. I mean, based on my understanding of AC units and the time where I said, okay, again, what is your experience with HVAC that you can render an opinion like that? And he looked and he said, well, none. I said, well, I've done hundreds of systems. I mean, I'm not an HVAC contractor, but I've had a lot of in-depth conversations just like the one I had today with them. And they typically come around to what I'm saying because it's not the way they want to do it, but it's the way it can be done. And for 2 bedrooms in this addition, it's 400 square feet. It'll work just fine, especially with the ceilings and everything else. Well, he kept fighting with me on it. He kept saying, well, look, blah, 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 and then this and that. We talked about budget. And he was in a huff. I mean, this AC guy, he really worked him up into a lather on this thing. And he said, well, besides, he said he won't do it. I said, well, there's no shortage of AC contractors that'll come in and run a zone on our existing unit. I mean, would you rather pay $10,000 and get this done, or would you rather pay $1,500 and get it zoned? He goes, well, I'd rather pay the $1,500, but I just, and I said, look, Mr. Customer, I deal with trades all the time. Cardinal rule number 1, don't be foolish. Do not let your trades manage your project. Do not let them do it, because they're going to do what's best for them, and they're going to do it based on whatever personal feelings they have. And a lot of these HVAC contractors, they consider themselves engineers, and they have a God complex about it, and their word is inviolate. They will not change. Just like when I've debated with true engineers, well, although true engineers, if you can show them empirical data, they'll change their mind. They'll adjust it. I've done it many times. But with this guy, it's all about ego. It was just about, I'm not going to do it any other way because he's going to make more money. He's not going to make any money at $1,500, and that's what it comes down to. Anyway, so after enough time has gone by and we've talked, and I got another HVAC contractor out there. We did the zone, and it looks to me like it's going to work fine. We didn't have to bring we didn't have to bring electricians out to put new 220 service, which I don't even know if I could pull 220 off of his main panel. It may not be able to. I mean, we might have to, if we had to make his panel bigger to put more, draw more juice on it. Who knows? That might be another $3,500 for a new panel. You never know. So, I mean, that's the reason I'm telling you all this story is this, because I rail on about how these builders, which are the subcontractors, these builders are self-employed by and large because they are unable to hold a job. They're unemployable. Either they don't play well with others, they don't like to follow rules, they can't show up on time. It could be they can't pass a background check. There are a lot of reasons they do this. And when you run into somebody like this contractor, and this isn't one of the big boys that are running around here doing, $10 million a year worth of business. This is just a individual contracting company. And I mean, they've got an ad, and they've got a logo on the side, whatever. And it's so, I mean, they appear bona fide, but these are folks that go to work for the only person who will hire them themselves. And so when you speak intelligently with them and say, okay, look, I believe we can do it this way. I've had other AC contractors done it this way. We did it this way. And, they'll just fight you on it because they have to be the authority. They have to be right. They're not willing to listen to anybody else. And just on the other side, you could say the same thing about me, right? Well, not true. I was talking to an AC contractor a while back, and I'll just use the same trade. He told me that there was a unit that we had. It was a kind of a slimline unit that could fit up in the ceiling and everything else. And I thought, well, can we use this there? Well, I didn't know that you can't attach a plenum to those. You can't put multiple vents in. So it's for one area. And I thought, well, we could use it. Well, he educated me. He said, well, you can't do that. You're going to have to put an air handler in there, and you're going to have to actually, we're going to have to build a closet for it, an AC closet, because it won't fit up in the attic. So I learned from that. And I said, okay, you're right. Thanks for teaching me that. Guess what mistake I'll never make again? Guess what information I now have? So it's important that y'all get a general contractor that can guide you through this. I don't know how many millions of dollars this guy in his career has bilked out of customers because he came up with an opinion that was not the ultimate opinion. It's one option. But I want you to put yourself in the place of my client. Would you rather pay $8,500 more minimum? Or would you rather have somebody looking out for you and protecting your project and your money? And that's what a general contractor should be doing for you. They should put you first. They should be your advocate. Yes, I understand they're making money on this job because it's a good thing to make money. Believe me, I make a profit. And I make a profit because I give good information. I guide the project with my client's best interest at heart. If you don't have somebody on your team that's doing that, it could be really tough in this industry because this industry is the Wild West. I appreciate you spending just a few minutes with me, but I wanted to share that with you and let you know that I am open to any questions you have. If you have any concerns, like you're thinking about doing something, I get a lot of emails. Give me a call. Well, not a call. Give me an email, and I'll definitely reply. I'll give you the best information I've got, and I hope it helps. I really appreciate you. Take care.